Social scientists tell us that over the past few decades, the American dream has become more myth than statistical reality. Fewer people at the lower end of the economic scale are making it to the middle class and beyond. Yet the dream and the anxieties around attaining it still drive our presidential campaigns and influence many legislative efforts. Every year, the dream also draws huge numbers of immigrants to our shores. And when you mix immigration with religion and fear, as is happening now, you've got the perfect cocktail for heightened political and racial tensions.
Next Sunday, the National Immigration Integration Conference will be held not far from BRIC House at the Brooklyn Marriott near the Brooklyn Bridge. Its theme is New American Dreams, Advancing Opportunity, Equality, and Justice. Now, over 1,000 participants are expected. Even presidential candidate Maryland's former governor Martin O'Malley should be in the house. And to give us a preview of one of the country's largest immigration conferences and to discuss why this conference has a special meaning in today's environment, we want to welcome back to BK Live. Live in the studio this time, not via Skype, Thanu Yakupidiage. She's the communications manager at the New York Immigration Coalition.
Hi.
Happy to have you here on the other side.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Okay, so to the uneducated, can you please tell us what is the conference about?
Okay, so the National Immigrant Integration Conference, this year it's being held in New York. It's been in existence for 8 years. It is a signature event for the National Partnership for New Americans, and each year its co-host changes. So this year the co-host is the New York Immigration Coalition, and it really is the largest immigrant integration conference in the country, where we're bringing together over 1,000 people to really discuss key issues in terms of immigration and immigrant integration in the United States, from financial empowerment to health to civic engagement and citizenship to media, really all of these ways in which immigrants are essential, to our communities, and how we can continue to push an integration agenda into 2016.
So Aaron's former governor, Mr. O'Malley, is the only presidential candidate who's showing up. What do you expect he's going to deliver, and why is he the only one? Shouldn't everybody be coming to learn?
So, these conferences are really fast-paced, and we have 6 days to go before the conference. So you never know, we might be making more announcements. Yeah. But Governor O'Malley is the first presidential candidate to accept our invitation to the NIC, that's what we call it. We've invited all the presidential candidates, and we really want him to discuss why immigration should be a part of his platform, why immigration should be a part of all of the presidential candidates' platforms, particularly, going into 2016. As we saw the second time that President Obama was reelected, the vote of Asian communities, Latino communities, and other people of color communities was really essential to him getting elected, because he promised immigration reform, and because of certain issues in Congress that wasn't able to happen. And so, moving into 2016, immigration will continue to be a really critical part of all of their platforms, and we need them to address it. And what better place to address it than the largest immigrant integration conference in the country?
Before we move forward, how would you characterize the Obama's administration's sort of stance toward immigration? How would you sort of rate him on a report card? The NRA always gives politicians ratings, so how would the conference sort of rate the president?
I think that the president made a lot of promises to immigrant communities. We recognize that it's not just in the president's court. He did try by executive action to provide some form of immigration relief to up to 5 million immigrants, and that even was halted by conservative forces and opponents of his executive actions. And so we really need all of Congress and all of the U.S. to really recognize the contributions of immigrants to the United States. Without immigrants, we would not have a thriving economy. We wouldn't have such an amazing cultural force in this country. We really all have to do that together, and that's really what we're going to be speaking about at NIC. There are 11 tracks. There are over 200 speakers. There are dozens of sessions and panels about everything from health access to LGBTQ community and immigrants to financial empowerment to the media. It's really going to be the place to be to really connect with all of these issues.
So Thanu, let's talk about hearts and minds for a second.
Sure.
So in this environment, we hear about gun control, and every time like a mass shooting breaks out or people start to mobilize on gun control, we see an uptick in people going to buy guns before something bad happens in their minds. So on the immigration front, when we have a lot of demagoguery out there and people saying we're cracking down on visas, do people start to pay attention more and sort of mobilize on the other end to make sure we have fair and comprehensive immigration standards in America?
You know, I think the one thing about immigration is that immigration has been like a really hot topic for a number of years. For us on the advocates end, we're constantly pushing, you know, for comprehensive immigration reform, for really solid, good policies that are immigrant friendly. And so it's not like we have to do an uptick when this stuff happens. It's just, I think right now we're in a time where, you know, we're hearing what some of the presidential candidates are saying about like refugees and other immigrant communities. There's been like a lot of like vitriolic language around refugees, particularly after the Paris attacks. Right. And we're really in a moment of just trying to combat all of that language. Refugees and immigrants are integral to our communities. 27 governors said that they wouldn't accept refugees, particularly Syrian and Iraqi refugees, into their states. And really, this is all the ways in which individuals are really trying to manipulate a really intense and dire situation. Refugees are not the issue here. They already go through really intense checks and balances in order to come to the States. And we need to be a welcoming community. That's the only way to fight terrorism. That's the only way to really deal with some of these important global issues today.
You know, you brought up the presidential candidates, but, you know, I have to always just, you know, I hate to do it, but Trump, you know, he has a very vocal stance toward immigration. So, you know, if Trump were to come to this conference, you know, what is it that you would want him to take away from it?
That's a very good question. I mean, we would want Trump to really take away that his stance is really isolating people. It is tearing communities apart. It is pitting people against each other. And when he says that he wants America to be great, America includes all of us. And so we would want him to come to this conference and really recognize that immigrants and immigration is a key part of American values. That's what the U.S. was based on, was immigration. And we need to continue those values at the same time as he says, make America great again.
So he's invited to the party.
If he would like to join us, we welcome him.
Okay. Bring some cameras with him. I'm sure it could be good for the Nick. But moving outside of that, we've heard a lot from the president's speech last night where he talked about these visa waivers that people are getting. And then we're hearing about the K-1 thing. And Hillary Clinton is saying we should step up the screening process. So where are we in this moment? Do you feel like that's changing the temperature about immigration reform?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that, you know, when we think about broad immigration reform, we're looking at it from like what is the most just and most effective for our communities. You know, we don't want immigration reform that just limits certain people from coming here. We want to, of course, make sure that the U.S. is secure, but we also want to be able to, you know, expand the ways in which we, you know, allow people to come to this country. There's 11 million undocumented immigrants in the U.S. We need a path to citizenship for those 11 million. We need to stop tearing families apart. A lot of families are mixed status families, so it's not as simple as being like, oh, let's deport X amount of people. A lot of these individuals have U.S. citizen children, for example. So we need just and fair, comprehensive immigration reform that's not just about keeping people out or, you know, creating stricter, you know, situations in terms of visa waivers, et cetera. We really need a system where people can come here, where people can continue to contribute, and, you know, where we can all together really figure out something that works for us.
Okay. Now you're talking about what works for us. You know, this is on a local sort of level, but you did speak earlier about, you know, the Paris attacks and international in scope. When you look at what's going on in Haiti and, you know, the Dominican Republic, you know, what's going on at this conference has national and global implications. So what do you say to that?
You know, I think this conference is really looking at immigration and immigrant integration from the local, national, and global arena. We, of course, we have a lot of sessions about refugees and sort of the global context of immigration. We really need to be thinking about migration from a global lens. So when we think about what's happening in Haiti with Haiti and the Dominican Republic, I think that there's a lot of lessons that can be learned from this conference when we're talking about the local national level that really, you know, can inform Europe, for example, as they deal with the refugee crisis, that can inform other countries as migration continues to be a large issue. We are in a time of the largest movement of people in the history of the world, and this is not going to stop. This is going to continue to happen, particularly as climate change continues and as other, you know, global conflicts continue to force people to move.
So what can we learn by coming down? Just the average layperson walking through the doors at the Brooklyn Marriott, is this an open and welcoming sort of environment, or is it a bunch of eggheads talking about numbers and crossings?
We really have a broad range of people coming to this conference. We do have the number folks and the policy folks, but we also have artists. We have local artists who are really engaging in this discussion. We will have Fabiana Rodriguez, she's the executive director of Culture Strike. She's a really huge arts person in the immigrant rights movement. She and Arts in Exchanging America, which is another national organization, will be running a local arts caucus for Brooklyn and other New York-based artists to really engage in this. We're engaging local media in New York to really help people understand why it is that they report on immigration. We have an entire expo where people can come and learn about different organizations. Wow. You can buy art there. You can go on a tour of a different neighborhood and really understand all of the ways in which immigrants are key to not just the economy, but to culture and to all aspects of American life.
So the conference is this weekend, the 13th to the 15th.
Yep.
And can people still register to
Yes.
come? And where can they go online to get more information? And not only this weekend, but throughout the year.
Sure. So you can go to www.nic, that's NIC 2015.org, and you can register. Registration will be open up until the weekend. And you can register for either the whole conference, for a day of the conference, or for a session. So if there's a particular session that you want to go to, but you can't afford to come to the whole conference, you can register for just that session. There's really going to be 1,000 people who, just in terms of the networking and the connections, just in the hallways, is going to be really incredible. Yeah. So we really encourage people to look at the schedule. It's on nic2015.org. Check out what you'd want to, be involved in, whether it be, a session on arts or media or financial empowerment or health or education. We have, again, 11 tracks, over 200 speakers. There's going to be tons of stuff happening for those 3 days.
All right, we'll be looking to see what other announcements are coming out before this weekend.
Great.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.